If you're in the back, please come forward. We're here to have a chat. And when you ask questions, I don't want to be like, ha! So anyways, as Simone, please introduce yourself and what is it you do?
My name is Simone Toftegaard, and I'm the digital training manager for some exceptional skilled people. Some of them are here in the audience today. And this is...
My name is Milton, for those of you who have not met me and had that pleasure. I am the product manager for XR Technologies at Novo Nordisk. And today we're going to talk about our journey at Novo Nordisk with XR Technologies.
Yes.
Kind of four primary topic areas is our collaborative journey with the XR Technologies. Then we're going to explore the challenges that we're facing with scalability, accessibility, the lines, and scalability. Then the next topic will be that we're going to look at the challenges of XR in GXP training. And lastly, we're going to dive into then a little bit of the future. What are our ambitions? What do we want to do?
Yeah, where would you want to take this?
So let's start with the first topic. Tell me, let's talk about our collaborative partnership.
Ooh, that's a big one, Milton. Have we even? I don't know. So in Novo Nordisk, we started actually a long time ago looking into these kind of technologies. And that was because when we started in the area of training, we normally build it up in the way when we take really experienced operators that train peer-to-peer training based on an SOP, and that's a standard of procedure where we build the training from there. But a lot of the times it's more read and understand. It's not that interactive. And it's based on who of the operators are available to train in specific processes and stuff like that. So we started to look into what can we do in the technology area to kind of like lift and make more effective training and make more scalable solution across the board. So that's everything from e-learning to, of course, virtual reality and augmented reality, and also, of course, now look more into the mixed reality world. And we are, in my team, we are training professionals, so we understand adult learning, but we needed someone who could understand more of the tech side, and that's where you, Milton, comes in.
Yes, my awesome team is here to support you, but why exactly XR technology? What is it? What is the benefit of actually bringing that in?
Some of the things where I found it to be really interesting, and maybe this is a little bit blasphemous here at the tech conference, but I'm not that interested in the tech itself. I am all about the challenge that we face, and I don't know if you have heard this, but we are growing just a tiny bit at the moment. So we are introducing a lot of new employees and other new people into our Novo Nordisk family, and this is a really, really great way to skill those people fast. We can train off the line. That's a really, really big thing for us. So that's where all of these extended realities technologies come into play, because we can create this kind of situation that we face in the real world, in the physical world. We can take that into the virtual world, and we can simulate it, and we can ask people to train again and again and again. We can have some of the things where we can see a process is difficult, we can reenact that, and we can really go into the details and set up a training environment that people can go through together with a trainer, without a trainer, if they want to do it at night, if they want to do it at home, more or less they can do it anywhere, and not only when the line is running, and that's super exciting for us.
Yes, so everybody please disregard her blasphemous comments.
Yeah.
She is still a good person.
Sometimes, not all the time.
So now we kind of talked a little bit about the benefits. Moving into where we want to kind of, why do we need this? What are the challenges that we're looking in rapid growth? Novo Nordisk is booming. You know, business is booming.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of demand for our product. So what does it kind of, how do we meet those challenges of growth and scalability and access to the line? Yeah.
So that's one of them. The first one is accessibility to the line. Whenever we need to train a process, we need to do it while the line is running, or we need to shut down the line. As you could imagine, that means a lot of business lost every time we need to stop production. So we really don't want to do that. We want to give the people access to the line and be able to train, but not necessarily stop production. The other thing is we are at the moment building a lot of the factories from the ground up. That means that we don't have access to a line. There is no line, there is no production site, there is no shop floor, there isn't anything, there isn't even any employees yet. So what can we do when we are then hiring people into these new kind of factories and these new lines? How can we train them when we don't have something physical? We can do that in a virtual reality world where we can go in and train on the lines. We have the blueprints, we have all of that. And maybe you, Milton, actually can tell a little bit about the headaches we have facing around that.
Yeah, so as with any company trying to adopt technology, particularly in industry, in a very strongly regulated industry, it takes some time to bring in technology in. A big challenge is adoption. So we look at, from a change management approach, what are the stigmatisms, what is holding people back from not just the novel use of it. Everybody can put on a headset like, oh, this is amazing, this is gonna solve all our problems. But in reality, it takes a very iterative process to define what are these requirements, how does the technology actually meet those requirements, and building it up iteratively to show them like, yes, it can be done, but it does take time. And there's a cultural mindset that needs to change that to show that this technology is very beneficial for them, even if they've been working there for 20, 30 years and know the processes from the back of their hand. But these processes change. And therefore, the way that we train also needs to change. So kind of talking about, we've talked about adoption. Now, what about the scaling? How do we scale with this technology?
One of the things that we are really looking into at the moment is not necessarily taking a specific line and making it one-to-one the same. That has been a focus for a long time. But if we want to reach more people, we want to create solutions where we can train on more generic lines. So it's more available across the world, because a lot of the times when we have older factories versus a newer one, you have different kind of line setup. But if we can create a virtual line where we are training competencies, we're training in a problem-oriented way, we're not only focusing on the process, but we're opening up the kind of training world that we're able to do, then we can push it out more into the different areas of our production sites. We're not creating something which is only located in Hillerød. We want to do something that's also in Sidemok, and yeah, some of my wonderful colleagues up here is just smiling a bit. But yeah, it's all about looking into how can we make this accessible for across the globe and not necessarily only for one side. And that's where these kind of technologies is super, super exciting. And of course, we're talking a lot about the VR, but we're also using AR and really trying to put all of the wonderful things you can do where you take the virtual world on top of the physical world and guide people from there as well. So we're really trying to see what kind of way can we utilize these different kind of technologies in the way that they are meant to be used, and not only looking at, oh, it's super exciting to go into a VR simulation. We're actually really using it where we need to do it and where it's something where we can solve a problem and it's helpful, and not just because we find it really exciting to do something in VR, but it's actually really moving something. It's making a change for people. And I think that's, yeah, where I really enjoy working with this kind of technology.
Excellent. So looking at, you are the expert on these kind of adult learning methodologies. So 4P training is something that is quite popular at Novo Nordisk. So with not diving specifically into that, but these learning methodologies, how do we adapt them to the technology, or are we adapting the technology to the learning process?
I think we need to do it in both ways. We can't say one or the other. We need to look at what we have been doing for a long time, so the 4P method, for example, where we do a specific process of steps. How can we take that into the virtual world, but also utilizing the technologies in new ways? So not having a physical trainer all the time. How can we actually make it more so it's guided through the simulation by the technology? And we'll get more into that as well when we're talking a little bit more about the future and all of my crazy ideas with this technology.
Excellent. So let's go into where we have another challenge is this on the production line training. GXP.
Yes.
So many regulations.
Yes.
Where do you see, how do we overcome this challenge of GXP training with XR?
I think one of the hurdles right now at the moment is when you are working in the pharma world and you're working with GXP-regulated training, and for those of you who doesn't know what that is, it means the training that's regulated from the government side. So it's everything where we need to be showcasing to the authorities when they go out and make an audit. This is the way that we train people. They are trained in a specific process, so people cannot go out and produce some of our medicines without being trained in the way that they're working on the line. And that's really beneficial for everyone that's actually taking our medicine, of course, that we can ensure that they are trained in the right way to do this. When we are then moving it into a new technology, there's a lot of uncertainty from the government side. Is this actually something we can use? And we're working really closely with the government to ensure that this is something that is just as beneficial as the old methods. But it is a headache, and I will not say that we have all the answers, and we're really trying to see, again, how can we use it in a way that's still compliant, still safe, still something where we are utilizing the right kind of technology at the right place, but not compromising our ethics and the way we want to do training and business.
Excellent. So I'm going to throw a dirty word out there. Deviations. What is that, and why is that such a problem?
A deviation is when there is an error done in the production, and that's a lot of the times where we want to go in and make sure that that deviation doesn't happen, so we will go in and maybe create training material. And this is where it comes into a really interesting place with all of the XR technologies, because normally if you want to train in a deviation, of course you need to have the deviation happens and people need to see it, and that's not really good because a lot of the times we then need to throw out all of the medicines that we're producing. But in an XR setting, we can actually create the deviation in there, so we can simulate it, and we can ask people to work around it, work with it, and learn how to actually handle or even prevent these kind of deviations happening. And it can be anything in the pharma world, and we'll go too much into specific here. But it's really, really interesting that we can actually, in a safe environment, get people to train in something that's really hard to do in the physical world, and here we can create really interesting training experiences. Yeah.
Awesome. So the production lines, the line of business, they're trying to implement lots of different technologies to boost efficiency, optimize their worker performance. So when we bring in XR technologies, how are we making sure that it actually brings an impact? Are we measuring it in any kind of way? Like, what are we doing?
No. Not at all. We're really focusing on creating the right kind of metrics that we want to measure. So we want to look into time to perform. We want to look into different kind of areas where we can see this will improve. And we're measuring that in order to make sure that it's an effective training method. And we're also comparing that to the existing ones. I think a lot of the times when we're working with tech solutions in training, we have a tendency to say, oh, we need to have a lot of data on the tech side, but we don't really have a lot of data on the existing setup. So what is actually happening right now when we have a face-to-face training, when we have a peer-to-peer training, what kind of effect does that have? Can we measure that up to our tech solutions? How are they in comparison? Are they working together, and how can we be really, really smart when we're using it? So we are trying to set up really specific data, and we have some great discussions with people here at the conference as well on how we can do that. And this is where we're really moving into the future to look into specific what is it we can do to optimize every training step for our employees.
Perfect segment into the last topic, the future. What does that look like? I have a high-level overview before I drill down into some more specific details.
On a high level, I dream of a world where we can utilize all of the different technologies in the right way, but we're really looking into also using the AI, that stuff that's coming up now. So instead of me being in the virtual world and guiding you, it's an avatar of me actually having that discussion. We are using the large language models in order to be coaches in the environment. So we can really utilize all of this, but not necessarily spending more employee time, because we have all of our employees are super busy at the moment because of the scale and the pace that we're running it right now. So the more we can start to utilizing these new technologies in order to support and really get that kind of solution or get that kind of conversation into our solutions, I think that's where we are heading for in the future. And as I mentioned before, the problem-based oriented training. So instead of having only the process, the steps, all of that, we're looking into this is a problem that you need to solve. How are you going to do that? And when we have that kind of setup, it gives us data points in two ways. So the one way is, of course, how are they interacting with the environment? What is it exactly that they're doing when they're training? But we can also look at all of the people going through the training. How are they solving this problem? And if there's 50 people going through, there's 10 people that are doing it in a really effective way, then we can take that and say, okay, the other 40 people that maybe not be doing it in the way that we want them, not as effective, how can we take the other way that the 10 first people are doing it in the training and scale that to the other ones? So we can really learn from the data we also get back. So it's not only looking into what is it that they are interacting with the technology itself, but also how are they solving the assignment? Is there something that we can learn so the processes we have in place can get optimized based on the data we get in a training environment?
Excellent. And a little bit about that scalability issue, then going into the future with all these new factories coming online. We've talked about currently we have a big challenge is that even within one site, you can have two similar lines, but the processes can vary very much between those two lines. So creating VR experiences, for instance, can be quite of a challenge and reduces that scalability. With our factories of the future, where we have more of harmonized, nearly identical lines, how do you see that playing a role into the scalability of training?
What we will be looking at is, and I am Danish, if you haven't heard from the accent, so we think a lot in Lego bricks. So how can we take different Lego bricks and build in different ways? So we have a red Lego brick that's containing this kind of training environment. How can we build that together with the green Lego brick that looks like this in order to make it more streamlined and make it more similar all across the world? And every time we can do something where we can more or less plug it into what's already happening, the easier it will be for us to actually scale it to the rest of the world and not end up having only solutions that will work on one line in Hillerød, but we can have something where we can take that break and put it into another building.
Excellent. And currently we have some products, like we utilize the HoloLens currently for these augmented instructions and with the whole situation there, but how do we continue to develop this concept for this on-the-line performance and continue to evolve it regardless of what technology underlies that concept and the benefits that it might have?
That's a great question, Milton. I think we're really trying to look at it from different angles, and we're really going out onto the shop floor as well and talking to our employees what is it that they are also looking for in new solutions. Also because we need to be mindful of the environment that they work in. As we mentioned, we are in a GXP regulated area, and that means also that a lot of the solutions we have will go onto shop floor and be side by side with the production. A lot of our operators do not have mobile phones. They do not have access to a computer. They do not have access to glasses and stuff like that. So how can they get access to the training material we create into these glasses? We need to be mindful of that. If we have the HoloLens that guides them through a process, we also need to think about, are they standing on the production line? Because if you're looking into a glass, you get it on top of your head. You can also have glasses as well. Then you will hit the glasses with the glasses. I'm trying to say, yeah. So there's a lot of things that we need to be mindful of in order to understand the kind of context that our employees are working in and how we can best support them.
Okay, and looking at the future, do you see XR really playing a massive role in that, or is it kind of just it's a tool in the bag that we bring out every once in a while when it makes sense?
I think it will play a big role, but it will be a tool. It's not one or the other. Again, it's really, we always come with a bag of different tools, and we need to utilize it when it makes sense. I think this will really rapidly grow. I can see that we will more and more look into it and having more of a training solution into the XR realm instead of having it in the physical one. So I see a lot of benefits, and I see that we also have a huge pull from the organization at the moment. They can really see that this is something where we can create exciting new solutions. Also for some of the younger employees coming in, they're expecting more tech. They're not expecting to read 300 pages of an SOP. So we're really kind of trying to utilize it when it makes sense, but also trying to push it out into the organization. But as you know, from a tech point of view, that can also be a little bit challenging because you cannot just ship 1,000 goggles out into the world. You need to set it up right?
Correct. So there's establishing your foundation, as we're heavily working on now. What are the platforms to be able to scale up? It's bring in one headset, two headsets, that's fine. But once then the line of business actually adopts technology, it's like, okay, I want 100 headsets, and I want it tomorrow. It's like, whoa, wait. So it's establishing, the procurement, the whole framework, almost like a starter kit. How do they get started? How do I enroll the headsets? How do I enroll as a user? Which applications are applicable to me? And so trying to make this as simple as possible for the line of business, for the end users. So one thing that we haven't really talked about a lot is, UX researchers that we employ is to understand from a user's perspective, how they utilize technology, does it make sense to them? I talked a little bit about change management, but the user's experience is vital because as they don a headset, the experience might be slightly different from another headset. And providing different XR technologies from mobile devices through different types of headsets that can meet the needs by specific use cases. And not saying, this is the one headset, you're going to use it, everyone adopts it, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's not the right approach.
Yep.
So we can also look at the content creation. Right now with augmented instructions, the onus is on the operator. Those are the experts that are building the processes. However, contrary to that, with VR development, we have development teams that are building experiences, but that's very resource intensive. And there's also that distance from the process experts themselves.
Yeah.
So where in the future can we see this? Do we make the operators continue to build the content for them since they're the experts? Or do we build the content centrally, or at least locally to the sites with development teams that can really build out some excellent experiences? Where do you see that balance?
I see that there are some areas where it makes a lot of sense to give it into the hands of the people that actually runs and owns the process and knows how it's going to be done. But there is also a need to have the centralized development hub, so to say. So looking into, for example, process training, I think that's an excellent place where you can scale it or give it out into the hands of the training professionals out on the local sites, or having it into the hands of the operators. But we also need to be mindful of that the operators have not been hired in to develop VR solutions, right? So if we want to do that, we need to look into the training setup that we have, the way that we have, and work with our operators and make sure that it's anchored somewhere. It's not just us thinking, oh, it's brilliant that the operators are creating the things itself, but it's actually a setup that they can buy into on the sites. And that's what we're looking a lot of. And I know a lot of us on this kind of conference, we are super excited when there is something new to develop, there is some new technology to explore, and we really want to create great solutions. But one of the headaches we face a lot of the times is that how does the local training organization actually maintain this? How are they going into more of a daily operation setup? How are they actually able to go in and develop or maybe create a new version of the ones that they already have? And having that kind of setup, and as you mentioned before, the ease of it, I think it's really important to not just think about how do we develop and then here you go, I have an awesome solution for you, I will now go back to my ivory tower in global and then come back half a year later. It's more about saying, okay, how can we actually make something that's really easy for you to keep on using and keep on having and keep on optimizing, and having that kind of collaboration and mindset is.
Awesome. With our last 30 seconds, what is one or two key takeaways for those out there, for companies that are trying to themselves also start this journey? What would you say?
I will say, look at the challenges that you have. Don't think about the tech at the beginning. You need to understand what kind of dilemmas are you facing, what kind of challenges are the employees having, and how can you solve that? How can you help solve that? Then you can start looking into what kind of technology will then be really beneficial, and how can we make sure that this is something that's anchored in a great setup in the organization.
Excellent, thanks. And I assume now we'll move into questions. So are there any questions in the audience? You guys all look eager. Oh, we have a hand raised back there.
Hi.
Hi.
Ian Biscoe, Trans Realities Lab at Design Academy Eindhoven. As a pharmaceuticals developer and manufacturer, from the talk, fantastic to get some insight. It seems that you're primarily using XR-related technologies in the training of people in pharmaceutical production lines, and I think also in existing production lines and ones that are in development that are not yet finished. So in a similar way that BMW are using digital twins, exploring manufacturing and so on. But I'm curious, are you also using these technologies in the drug development process, such as in visualizing molecular models? And the second part, if so, do you use these tools only in one place, or do you use them in a distributed basis where you have people collaborating in virtual environments from different physical locations?
Sure, I'll take that question. So from a product perspective, our area is actually focused mostly on the product supply. So the supply chain of, once we start creating the chemicals and then packaging them into the actual drugs and then packaging and then release out to the market. However, everything that we're doing is to be scalable for all of Novo Nordisk. We've had a lot of people from different stages of the drug process come and approach us, ask us, how can we use this? And so we have discussions about their use case and provide them, consult with them about how they could, what type of technologies should they use. We had a person from the commercial side. They want to be able to showcase how the molecules actually work, and to visualize that for customers is an important thing. We have, diabetes and obesity is our kind of core of what we're doing now, but we're expanding to other therapy areas. And so to be able to utilize this technology to demonstrate to customers what that means to them and the impact, the potential impact on their lives. And obviously for us, it's in product supply. How do we get one more pen fill? Why are we doing this? And how does the technology support that? So do you have anything else to add to that?
There's also the whole design of it, so designing of new buildings and stuff like that, designing new lines, there's a use case there. We're also just talking to some of our training centers around the world where we're a conference center. So how can they bring the operation into the site there and talk to their clients, but also, of course, our colleagues around the world that maybe didn't have the opportunity to go into the different areas of our production. How can we then bring it to other sites? So there is a lot of use potential. We focused on training today mainly because I'm here. But yeah, we're using it in a lot of different places. Great question.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Who's next? Questions?
Is it fine? Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for this super useful content on training and also for closing in such glorious way today.
We really wanted to come into a theme song, but they said no.
Yeah. I even asked for the chicken dance, and then let's shut that down real quick.
So, again, let me give you a couple of advices for tomorrow. The day will start early with the Virtual World Society meeting and breakfast at 7:30, from 7:30 to 9. Then the keynote starts at 9 a.m., of course. The expo hall opens at 10. Then we have the XR Guild meetup from 11 to 12. We have the XR Innovators Hour from 11 to 12 too. We have the Startup Pinch competition from 1:30 to 3. And we will wrap up and have the Best in Show awards at 4:35. With that, wow, it was a long day. Let me extend a huge thank to our sponsors, Titanium sponsors, the Hong Kong Digital Entertainment Association, the Culture, Sport and Tourism Bureau of the Government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, and the Cultural and Creative Industries Development Agency. And also, of course, also thanks to our gold sponsors, Niantic and Meta. A thanks to all of you attending the sessions. A thanks to all of you presenting super interesting content at the sessions. And see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.